All right, how about this? Surprise player. Who's your guys' surprise 49er this year? The guy that today we are not talking about, but man, as this season progresses, we're going to talk more about this guy. Who do you think?
Is it unfair to say Drake Jackson?
No.
Is it unfair to say that the rookie who has had a pretty up and down camp doesn't feel like the Niners coaching staff has a great grasp on him yet? They know he's really talented, but they're not really sure what to do with him quite yet. They're throwing him in situations to sink or swim in the preseason. It's undeniable, the talent. His weight's in a good spot. That's the only reason the 49ers have him. He really messed up his weight that final year at USC, man, playing up heavy. It was bad. And he looks it. He looks it. He's got a little baby fat that he's got to, tone up a little bit. And you could see him processing everything. He seems like a pretty sharp kid. You could see him sort of just taking in all of the Chris Kasarik energy, taking in every Bosa snap with serious intent. When he was watching, he was an active watcher. And Samson Ebukam is going to have a really nice year opposite Nick Bosa. There's no question about that. How can you not have a good year across from Nick Bosa? But Samson Ebukam, there's a reason that he's on the 49ers, right? They couldn't stay healthy. You can't really trust him to be a 3-down kind of player. And even then, you can't really trust him to be in, week out. I think, let's say maybe November 1, maybe even earlier than that, the 49ers start really integrating Drake Jackson into this defense, and he becomes the bookend to Nick Bosa. And I think that has potential to be really, really cool, because the athleticism of a Jackson with that weight, with that ability to protect in the run game, I think he could have some really big games and some really big numbers by the time the season's over, even though he'll probably only play about half of it.
Ryan, you got a bust out player? Who stands out to you? Who's going to break out this year?
We already lost Danny Gray here because somebody picked him as offensive MVP.
Right. That's right.
That was a genius move.
2 steps ahead of us.
I got to agree with Drake Jackson.
You can double up. I'm not
going to double up here. This is a little bit of a combination of a little bit of a.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go Brandon Aiyuk. Obviously, he had a massive camp. I saw people, arguing on. I think Grant Cohn said he's going to be under his receiving total, 700 something. I think that he's going to have a more prolific receiving year than Deebo Samuel will. But just from looking at watching at camp, I mean, his connection's undeniable. It seems like the Deebo, and maybe this is a little bit more of a knock with Deebo, but it just seems like Lance and Deebo, the chemistry maybe is not quite there.
They were forcing it a little bit.
Yeah.
They tried to get the deep route every single practice, and they connected on it maybe once or twice. Deebo doesn't separate great in those situations, and he's just, it sucks to say because it feels like a slight, but I mean this with the utmost respect. Like, he's a gimmick player of the highest order. He's a gadget player. You put him in situations where he can just ruin dudes, but one of those situations is not just running a 9 route. Like, that's just not his game. And so I'm interested to see if the reason they kept forcing it in training camp and in the preseason games was because that's an integral part of the offense, or they were just sort of messing around and seeing if they could do that too. And we'll get back to the slants sooner rather than later. But I'm with you. I think Aiyuk's going to have a better statistical year and perhaps even a better emotional year than Deebo Samuel.
Well, and like what Larry said about Trey, I think I've said this a couple of times. Like, he kind of reminds me of Happy Gilmore. Like, he's got that unbelievable, top of the league arm strength, and his deep ball when he's just not thinking and hucking it. Mm-hmm. It's great. It's like the Happy Gilmore drives, but he hasn't quite learned to putt yet in the same way that like a Garoppolo has. And I just worry about, Deebo how many times it was just quick, get it out quick to Deebo, and then just let him cook.
That was the offense.
Yeah, that was the offense. And I worry a little bit about the Trey Deebo connection there. And so, all right, I'm going Aiyuk.
I'm going to go as far as, a guy who who I think is going to surprise me a little bit this year. I like Nick Zakelj. I mean, we talk so much about Jason Poe, and Poe was impressive at times in the preseason and ultimately didn't make the team, but is on the Niner practice squad. We didn't spend any time talking about Nick Zakelj. He is smart. He's tough. And I think when, kind of piggybacking my last point about how I think Jake Brendel may be the concern, I think Nick Zakelj is the guy that's going to come out of nowhere and break out. And I think he's going to be the center. He plays nasty. He's really smart. He's really aggressive. He's really tough, and he's getting better. He was Pro Football Focus's highest graded 49er on offense in that final preseason game against the Texans. I've been watching Zakelj since minicamp, and he's very, very physical. And then when you heard John Lynch this week and Adam Peters talking about his potential, it's pretty clear that they really like this player. And physically, I think he's more than Brendel and more than Brunskill. And I think if they're going to look for, to fortify that interior in front of Trey, they're going to want smart, tough, accountable, getting better, assignment sound. I think it's going to be Nick Zakelj. And I know that's like, what? Who's Nick Zakelj? I can't even spell Zakelj. John Lynch said it's Zakelj with a J, and they had the J on. But I think Nick Zakelj is going to be the breakout kind of player that nobody's really banking on.
It's interesting, Larry, because there's no nice way to put this. Beginning a training camp, he looked like the first guy out the door. He looked like he was going to get cut like on the field. And so I take with a grain of salt, though I see it. I'm seeing what you're seeing. He has gotten better, and he is physical, and there's something there, and I get it. I'm picking up what they're laying down. It wasn't a very high bar to get over. Like, anyone could have improved from where he started. So a credit to him for making the team from that juncture. We were certain that he was done. And the physicality is there. Center is an interesting position too. You know better. Like, center's not necessarily just put the best guy there. It takes a lot of cerebral energy, takes a lot of cerebral depth to be able to play that position, especially for Kyle Shanahan. He'll take the trade-off in athleticism all day, every day, if he has a guy that he trusts that can always identify the Mike linebacker, and especially in a read option offense, always be able to figure out what kind of a front they're facing. That is vital to what they're going up against. So I like Brendel. I'm not as down on Brendel as you, but I'm picking up what you're laying down, what John Lynch is laying down about Nick Zakelj. And listen, my sister went to Fordham. My brother-in-law's from Fordham. We root for the Rams over here with the Fordham Rams, of course. We root for the Rams over here at the Kurtenbach household. So we'd love to see a Ram do well for the 49ers.
There you go.